Europe is ready to take the lead in providing security guarantees for Ukraine, stated the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte following a meeting in Paris. The day before, leaders of 8 countries, along with EU and NATO chiefs, met in the French capital to discuss the situation in Ukraine, as well as European security. Summarizing the event, Rutte also emphasized that Europe is ready and willing to strengthen itself. The importance of bolstering Ukraine as well as ramping up the country's defense spending was also underlined by other participants of this emergency meeting.
At stake is not just the future of Ukraine, it is an existential question for Europe as a whole. On defence, it's clear the US is not going to leave NATO. But we Europeans will have to do more. The issue of burden sharing is not new, but it is now pressing. And Europeans will have to step up, both in terms of spending and the capabilities that we provide.
There should be no decisions on Ukraine without Ukraine, and no decisions on the security of Europe without Europe. It is known that this is not particularly revealing, but Europe is ready to get involved in the process of stabilization and peace in Ukraine. Also because these decisions in the future will have a clear impact on our security.
A ceasefire is not automatically peace. And it's not automatically long-lasting peace. So we really have to ensure that Ukraine have the best possible outcome of negotiations whenever they start, but also starting point. And that means more donations and more weapons right now.
The possibility of deploying troops to Ukraine as part of a potential ceasefire agreement was among the issues that were discussed during the meeting, reports The Washington Post. At the same time, European leaders are consulting with the Trump administration on possible U.S. support for such a mission. According to journalists, current proposals include sending a European deterrence force of between 25,000 to 30,000 troops, which would not be stationed on the front lines, instead serve as a visible presence to discourage further Russian aggression. If necessary, these forces could be reinforced. President Zelenskyy and First Lady Olena Zelenska arrived in Turkey's capital city of Ankara, where he's set to meet with the Turkish President Erdogan. On Telegram, Zelenskyy stated that the issue of exchanges will be the focus of the talks, as efforts to bring Ukrainians back home are ongoing. Food security will also be discussed. EU ambassadors will meet in Brussels on Tuesday to discuss providing Ukraine with an additional 5 billion euros in military aid, reported Radio Svoboda, citing a draft document. The package will include 1.5 million rounds of large-caliber artillery ammunition, air defense systems, long-range precision missiles, drones, and the training of Ukrainian military personnel. A draft document states that some of the assistance will be directed towards Ukraine's defense industry. Any future peace agreement must respect Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, and be backed by reliable security guarantees. This was stated by the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen during a meeting with the U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg. The press office of the European Commission reported that von der Leyen emphasized the EU's decisive role in ensuring Ukraine's financial stability and defense, as the European Union has provided a total of approximately $145 billion in aid to Ukraine. This includes $52 billion in military assistance, putting the contribution on par with that of the US. She also stressed that the EU is fully committed to supporting Ukraine militarily and is prepared to do even more. A woman and her 5-year-old daughter were injured in the Kirovohrad region as Russian troops attacked Ukraine with drones overnight. According to a state emergency service, a Russian UAV targeted a 9-story building with 2 apartments catching fire. Residents of 38 apartments were evacuated. In total, Russia launched 176 drones to strike Ukraine on Tuesday, reports the Air Force Command. In addition to the Kirovohrad region, damages were also reported in Kharkiv, Kiev, and Cherkasy regions. Talks between Russian and U.S. delegations have now concluded in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The U.S. State Department reports that Moscow and Washington agreed to eliminate irritants in bilateral relations. They also decided to appoint high-level teams to begin working on a path to end Russia's war in Ukraine. However, the statement also underlines that a single phone call followed by a single meeting is not sufficient to establish an enduring peace.
Today is the first step of a long and difficult journey, but an important one. I came away today convinced that they are willing to begin to engage in a serious process to determine how and how quickly and through what mechanism can an end be brought to this war. Whether we can ultimately reach that outcome will obviously depend on every side in this conflict's willingness to agree to certain things. So I think it's important to have this meeting because we haven't really had much engagement with the Russians for almost 3 years.
According to Russian state media TASS, Kremlin foreign policy aide Yuri Ushakov, who was a part of the delegation, reported that negotiations between the two countries went well, with the parties agreeing to take each other's interests into account. At the same time, he said that a meeting between Putin and Trump is unlikely to take place next week and was unable to anticipate a precise date. Meanwhile, Fox News senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich posted on X that the US and Russia are proposing a three-stage peace plan, according to multiple foreign diplomatic sources close to the talks in Saudi Arabia. These include a ceasefire, elections in Ukraine, and then signing a final agreement. In the meantime, this information has not been confirmed by the White House. While asked about this, the Russian foreign minister stated that he hasn't seen any three-stage plan. The European Union has no intention of lifting sanctions against Russia for its aggression toward Ukraine, even if the United States decides to do so. This was stated by European Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis ahead of an Economic and Financial Affairs Council meeting in Brussels. He also underlined that EU countries are continuing to work on the next 16th sanctions package.
I think it's very clear with the moves of current Trump administration that EU will need to take issues related to EU's security more in its own hands. It also concerns sanctions policy. As you know, the work continues on preparing the 16th sanctions package. Thank you.
President Zelenskyy has postponed his visit to Saudi Arabia amid Russian-American talks in Riyadh. He will instead make the trip on March 10th. Answering a journalist's question during a joint press conference with the Turkish president, Zelenskyy stated that no one wants peace more than Ukraine. However, it has to be a just peace.
Any country has a bilateral tract with other countries. Feel free to discuss whatever you want, but you cannot make decisions without Ukraine on how to end the war in Ukraine. We were not invited to this Russian-American meeting in Saudi Arabia. It was a surprise for us, as it was for many. I don't know who will stay there and who will leave. To be honest, I don't care. I do care what our partners think about us. We are absolutely honest, open.
Zelenskyy also stated that Ukraine is preparing for a U.S. official visit to Kyiv. The U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg, has already arrived in Poland, after which he will travel to Kyiv, says Reuters.